connect in. Give it a second. That's not now. Let's get TikTok up. I don't get the same access. Move my camera holders. Ugh. Yeah, that looks okay. All good. All good. And put that there. How is that looking on that? Should be good. I tested everything. Where is my chat? That's what I want. Here. Swap them around. Nope, I do not want that. There. Okay. Right, TikTok, unfortunately, you only get half my screen until I can upload on the studio. Unfortunately, that's just a byproduct of the fact I have to stream on TikTok for a little while first. I think 25 minutes before I can do that. Oh, hang on. Helps if I make the live on here public. Let the world know we are alive. On. Okay, that should be better. Anyone who joins in late, we'll just have to catch up with. Can I see chat on here? I can only see half a chat. Hopefully, as I said, TikTok, you unfortunately only get half a screen. I would say come across to YouTube. I don't know if that's going to get TikTok. Not showing my live very much, but yeah, it's only till I get the thing. Got it, mate, on YouTube. Perfect. Thank you, Ian. Right, yeah, I did become live a couple of minutes ago, but I had the live as unlisted. Ziev, I'm not gonna. Hi, Dean Ziev. I'm not gonna take guests at the minute. Let me just. I probably won't even do it on this stream, because I have to, with TikTok's rules of you have to stream so much live streams on TikTok before you can use their studio, which would give me better access to streaming off my OBS and giving you better screens. But until then, unfortunately, you have to use this silly phone that I'm holding on a really terrible holder, and it wants to crash. Is there any way I can move this chat on my phone? Because it's blocked by the holder unless I put this in here. And even then I could do something stronger there. Let's go for hopefully sound is okay. OSS is saying the sound's fine, but I never trust that after the way it crashed on me yesterday. I wonder if I put this on here. Like I say, TikTok you will get a better view on YouTube, and hopefully in a few days we will be able to use the studio and use the system that they have there. Okay, so the point of this is I put a poll up on YouTube and basically requesting what people wanted to see, whether they wanted me to stream historical games like Crusader Kings and sort of go through the history there, maybe find some mods, and I see. Oh, thank you very much. I really do appreciate that. Hopefully we'll start getting some more videos up again now that I'm back. I took just over a year out. New job, new baby, new house, and it starting to try and organise myself that I can sort of come back to this, because this is my passion, and I love the community here, and I think that's something I want to do as well, is to sort of bring like-minded people together, sort of get some sort of community forming around people who have a shared interest in their ancestry, the battles, not so much their personal ancestry, father, grandfather, etc., but just the clan system and Ireland, and just sort of dispel myths within the community as well as with my videos. So that's something I'm sort of aiming for at some point this year. But I have put a poll up on, because my video editing takes so long, because I'm not a video editor, and I don't have the skills required to just fire them out, and I'm pretty apprehensive about using AI or any sort of AI imagery, although I will start using it, I think, but with a clear markings of what is AI, so and for slight visual aids. But yeah, there's a poll on my posts on YouTube, and I just what everyone wants to see with these videos going forward. Like I said, playing a history game, watching me edit videos. I tried to do that yesterday, but it kind of messed with my computer a wee bit. But I can, if it's what the community wants, then ask and you shall receive, and I will put the old geeky glasses on and try and figure out a way to do it, and or just a general Q&A. The problems I have with the Q&A is unfortunately it means that I rely on people asking questions and some people just like to listen to in the background, so there can be long lulls of silence. One of the ways I've thought about sort of alleviating this is to maybe start by talking, if we set up I start the conversation talking maybe about a specific family, and from there it may open up a discussion going forward, and encourage people to just sort of ask questions, so today I've decided to go with the if my screen doesn't want to keep going blank. Why does that keep doing that? All the nights to do that. Let me try this quickly. I was thinking about doing the O'Farrells and just sort of talking about them, and hopefully know anything about the surname I do not. Could you give me an idea of where that would be from? I've not heard of the surname in Ireland. You are I don't really want to be using the internet while I'm here, but let me just see if there's maybe there's a variation of it in Ireland. Means light of fire. The name is Balearic, Ireland's Polish, Belarusian, Jewish. Okay. According to the internet, but I would have to do some proper research into that. I am, like I said, like the video says, I'm primarily focusing on Ireland. I will eventually sort of do nights for Scottish and Scottish surnames. He says you've. Let me just answer that. Scotland. Okay, there you go. It's so it is that's obviously a variation of the name, but it's URE. And it's from Ayrshire, the Strathclyde region of Scotland. Again, I will put that in a note, and whenever I do the Scottish night, because I'll be using maps and stuff like that. You can't really see, but there's a map over here. Like I say, better to come onto YouTube to see the whole thing. I will do Scottish surnames, and it will also give me enough. I mean, you think there are maybe 10,000 Irish surnames. There's probably 10,000 that have died out or aren't as common. So let's just start, for argument's sake, pulling a number out of the air, 20,000 surnames just for Ireland, and the same could be said again for Scotland. Never mind the overlap with England. So I don't know 40,000 surnames off the top of the history of 40,000 surnames off the top of my head. But what I do like to do is do a bit of research before I come on and give myself an idea about as many as I can. And luckily there's a lot of overlap between some of the main ones that knowing the history of one, you end up knowing the history of several. It does mean that some branches of the smaller branches of the family who are unrelated lines, let's just say for a prime example, the Campbells. We all know the Scottish family, the Campbells, from Argyll. We don't all know, and there's a video of it on YouTube, but they're very prominent family in Scottish history, rising with a line with Robert Bruce in the 14th century, and basically being at the top of everything politically in Scotland right up until pretty much the modern day. Anyway, there's a branch of Campbells from Ireland around Armagh. For those of you who are on YouTube, you can see the map here, and Armagh would be right here. They are unrelated. It's actually an Anglicisation. A better example of an Anglicisation of the name would be McCowell, and it was anglicised to Campbell. So my point of that is that if someone was asking me about Campbells, you would end up getting the main family, Campbell family history, and not the smaller ones. But that is why I like to do a bit of research before I come on, and remind and refresh myself that I can basically give as many people an idea of what is happening. Has my live on YouTube just crashed? Let me see. Oh no, it didn't. It just closed down. I can still hear you. Thank you, Sean. Thank you very much. Right. Okay, that's fine. I think it was just the screen. I think I've got a loose cable, and it's just my screen playing up. So, good job. I'm not going to be me too in Australia. You can hear me in Australia, can you, Wayne? That's just my voice. I'm shouting that loud over that typhoon that's heading your way. Yeah, so like I say, just to open the discussion, we'll talk a wee bit about the O'Farrells, and and hopefully it will sort of open it up from there. So the O'Farrells are primarily found. They were the princes of Annerley, and they had land in Longford here on the map for YouTube. And basically, the territory was divided into Upper and Lower Annerley, and it sort of branched into Westmeath as well. And there was, I believe, there's an unrelated line up in Tyrone as well. Yeah, Alfred's still on his way. Well, anyone who's watching from Australia, please, I hope you stay safe with that coming on. And they were the Westmeath sort of area was sort of like the clan system. You would have septs, as a term we've sort of used as septs, and the O'Farrell Bui or O'Farrell the Yellow sort of held that sort of area. And you've also got the O'Farrell Ban, the O'Farrell Fair, and believe it or not, a wee tidbit for any McAuliffes out there, a branch of the family did use the name McAuliffe or McCamlav as well. So I haven't found any link to the name carrying on beyond the annals into modern times, and whether a branch was in possession of any lands, received any gifts, so charters. That's an ongoing research. But yeah, so there could be, if any McAuliffes have any sort of links to Longford that they found, it was a name that a branch of the O'Farrells did use, or were used for them. They're written down in the annals anyway. And basically, like most families, whenever the Anglo-Normans came along in 1169, I'm convicted. My surname is Armstrong, but I find out that my grandfather was adopted into the Armstrong family. Hang on, you're just gonna have to bear with me. The screen that I'm using for my chat just keeps flittering. Did the clans historically accept adopted people into the clan? And Gerald, thank you very much for the gift. You did not have to do that. I really appreciate it, though. Yeah, so well, the Armstrongs were a Reaver family found on both sides of the Scottish border, but primarily on what is now the English side of Scotland, the English side of the border. And they've got a myth that they get their surname from helping Robert the Bruce. They fought off a boar and basically lifted it with one arm. As with all family origins, that yeah, Fairbairn, yeah, exactly. He lifted the king, I believe, onto the horse, or a boar. Again, I normally would research these before I come on, and that's why we're doing Ireland tonight or Scotland. But you've gifted, so I feel I should tell you why now. So anyway, yeah. So adoption was very prevalent in all societies, like not just the clan system as we know it. But all through history in Scotland, Ireland, and on the continent, there's a lot of reasons for adoption. Whether a male line can sort of be ending a chiefly line, and you could have sort of cousins, distant cousins on the maternal and paternal sides, that you would want to inherit those lands. Or maybe they are strong leaders, strong warriors, and a Lord King, Mormaer, may feel that that person can sort of take on the role more easily. It's about it can be done politically, sharing, because humans, after all, in medieval society and earlier, are a resource. just like cattle, just like land. So allowing adoption between families allows people to be, it's almost a trade, where you maybe don't have enough manpower coming naturally into the clan system. Thank you very much for the gift as a airborne entertainment. So yeah, you don't have where was I lost you? People gifting me. You don't have to. You you don't have the resources coming naturally, so you are adopting in. You are bringing people into the clan system, and a clan system, like any sort of small society, they're a society unto their own inside of generally of a wider political system, whether that be a tribe, a country. It's about pooling resources. There wasn't really this, the way we look at sort of identity today doesn't translate to early medieval period. So you're in the clan. So Gerald, say for you, for example, you've come in, you've been adopted in. You're now another shield on the shield wall, farmer in the field, potential mate for a fair lady. You're all these things to strengthen the clan. So it doesn't. It's only really when you start to see, I would argue, it's only really when you start to see paternal father-son land inheritance brought across from mainland Europe that you really start to see that like a conflict to that. Fosterage created very close ties. Yes, so the Fosterage is a little bit different to adoption, but it works along the same lines, and the fact that you are allowing your children to be raised by another family of similar rank, and not sometimes even lower ranks, but it's a way of trusting your most prized asset. After children, your heirs are your most prized asset. And you're allowing them. Thank you for the response. No, thank you, Gerald. If you got any more questions, please just ask. And I am trying to. You're from the Doyle clan. Yeah, I'm a Doyle too, Hunternet. So I am from the Leith, South Down, South Armagh branch of the family. But you're very welcome, Gerald. So as I was saying, Fosterage sort of you're giving your most prized asset to another family, and you're trusting them with raising them, teaching them, protecting them, and it's almost the same way you would entrust your daughter in a marriage to a noble family, and it does create very close ties between families. Some families got the honour of being the primary fosterer of noble families. The O'Donnells, the McSweeneys would be a primary one for receiving O'Donnells. The McDavids, who were a branch of the O'Dohertys in Inishowen up there in Donegal, would also give them to the O'Dohertys would give them to the McDavids, apologies, and who were in northern Inishowen, and with that, although they are distant kin, they're entrusting their heirs and sons to that family. So, and like I say, with that, the McDavids stayed very loyal to the O'Dohertys right up until their wee rebellion after the 9 Years' War. So, it just shows how important it was to wider Gaelic and other societies, within. within Ireland and Scotland. So they, actually, that's hang on. I'm a descendant of the Cambron family, which also has ties to the Camerons of Lochiel. Again, I will make sure to cover the Scottish sort of, that's a really terrible map, Scottish side of the surnames discussion. I will even do a new decal for that or maybe if we do it next week, and we sort of alternate. But Camerons are a very interesting family. Who should we have so great to have here? Well, Antoinette, the Doyle clan, although I will say there's probably a Norse line, it is very possible. Most Doyles will be of Gaelic origin. It was a name sort of adopted. It's the best way I can explain it is very similar to Smith. So it's a name that's given for a trade or an action. And Doyle's Donegal, meaning dark foreigner, dark stranger, although given to a political unit in the 10th century Ireland when we had the Donegal and the Fiongal, who were white foreigners and dark foreigners. Early 19th century historians mistranslated that to meaning Norse and Danish, but they were more likely factions with links to York under the Emer. And what happened was they were gangs in Dublin, two gangs fighting it out for political supremacy. So what happened, it became a term ascribed to Vikings living in settlements, to be a dark stranger, to be an other, to be another person. But as Gaelic families moved into these hubs, they were ascribed that acronym as well, that title, that nickname, and it seems that they sort of embraced it, and with that became Doyles. So although, like I say, Antoinette, there are quite possibly Norse descended lines, and if they're moving into Norse hubs anyway, they're obviously intermarrying, fostering. So you know, if anyone's going to have some sort of Norse connection, a Doyle would probably be the most common one. It's also an anglicisation of the Scottish name McDowell. And the two are interchangeable, so there's also that line as well, depending on, especially if you're from an Ulster line. That just slipped on there. I have to move that every time I want to see the questions. So yeah, it's that is it. And actually, to be fair, there you go. That wee circle on this line here is my branch of the family's ancestral land. Actually, I located a wee church, side thing, just about here, called Belela. So I'll just go off on a wee bit of my own family history here, but it's quite modern. I went to my family is originally Catholic, so I went to every Catholic church in this part of Ireland, and recorded all the Doyles in those areas, and to basically see where the highest concentration was. And it was in a wee place called Belela down here, where basically the whole church was just Doyles. So I feel that is patient zero for my family, especially as traditionally families didn't really move more than 12 miles from their sort of ancestral area. And that obviously excludes when a whole clan goes crickling and gets up and moves on for political reasons or warfare, but generally by and large, it's a 12-mile rule. Hello sir, I was just recommended your channel. What an interesting channel. Thank you very much, PF. Patient zero, yeah. No, thank you very much. Well, welcome. Any questions on Irish history or surnames, please feel free to Quinn's Workshop. How you doing? Mate? What am I doing here? I'm doing lives now. You were partly an inspiration for that, so I hope your lives are doing very well. Any of you are into leatherwork, Viking history, reenactment, take a look on TikTok at Quinn's Workshop, Leathercraft. He's a great guy. Listens to some good rock music while he chops away at that leather. So um, we plug in there for him. So I had my DNA done, and it came back as 80% Scandinavian. And you are practicing pagan witch. Don't really. I must say, I'm very naive when it comes to religion. It's not my sort of area of expertise, although I am researching a very detailed video. Any of you who watch this channel quite or have followed it in the past will know I do sort of bigger projects every now and again. Battle of Bannockburn, Battle of Clontarf, I take quite a lot of research. And I'm doing the Earners of Ireland, which is all the families who were sort of owned land within church lands, Termin lands they were called, amongst other things. They were part of the religious order, but without taking any of the, the oaths or anything like that. They didn't have to do everything that a priest did. But as for your DNA, please forgive me, Antoinette. I'm guessing if you're female, and you'll maybe have done what's it called? There's two DNA tests. You've got Y DNA testing, and I can't remember the other name, but it's Ancestry. Will do it. It'll come to me in a second. That DNA sort of pulls in from likely links to areas through people having similar DNA markers as you. I'm not a DNA expert, but I would say that if you want a better understanding of your DNA makeup, of what line you descend from, go to get the Y DNA testing, but you need to be a male, because obviously males are the only ones that have the Y chromosome marker. So an uncle, brother, father, and they have haplogroups that are assigned to sort of surnames, and it's a really good way to get a better understanding. But DNA is coming a long way, but I'm going to argue it's still quite new, and there's still a lot of errors that can happen. My surname means son of Olaf, and though I had some Scandi DNA, my dad's haplogroup is very Gaelic, known as Irish type 2, Southern Ireland. Yes, so you are McAuliffe from the O'Noctic Castle, or Cashel, linked to the McCarthys. Your family originate from Duhallow. So they separated from the McCarthys and Branson McCarthys. What was the name of the guy? They're Alan, I think, is the name ascribed to the progenitor of your family, although there's no real historical records for him that I can find as of yet. And he... so the McCarthys were Duhallow. I believe you ended up in Duhallow with the O'Brien expansion into Munster, pushing the O'Noctic Cashel out of Cashel and their lands. You ruled Duhallow, a very poor region in terms of generally for Munster. But you ruled it for right up until the confiscations of lands and after the 9 Years' War, which there weren't many families. There was a general rule whenever a confiscation happened, if you weren't active within warfare, and even if you were, they didn't confiscate every bit of land. But the McAuliffe seemed to be one of the very few that lost it all. So you also are considered an academic family as well, because I believe you raided a church, I want to say the Callahans, and you took one of their manuscripts and rewrote it, copied it down, and that stayed within the family for a few years as well. Let me see, I think you said something there as well. Newmarket. Yes, see, Newmarket is is a later. Didn't exist whenever the McAuliffes ruled. Newmarket is a new settlement, but it is on top. It is part of what is now Newmarket. Yes, and you had a castle there. I don't believe it exists anymore though. Yeah, so as I was saying, yeah, you've got 8% Scandinavian, so that can be through a lot of reasons. Internet, intermarriage, just close relation groups, related groups, having similar. Are the DNA tests trustworthy or is it a scam? Do you know what? I'm not at liberty to say I'm paid by it. No, I'm joking. I find them to be very good, but I wouldn't. A bit like anything, anything you read on the internet, anything you sort of research, use them as another piece of information to understand and build a picture. Don't just look at it and go, this is me. And I think a really good example of this is if any of you have ancestry DNA tests, you will notice that the percentages change several times a year as they get more information. So I think it's a great way to get an understanding of some of the history and maybe build up a picture of the area that your family were from. But some people, for whatever reason, really build up an identity around their surname, making it maybe a lot more than it needs to be. And I think if you're going to add DNA into that mixture, you walk a very fine line. And another thing is you've run the risk of being very disappointed as more DNA tests are uploaded in the system and they get a better data pool and understanding, and then they just totally flip it on its side and say, actually, do you know what? You are not from type 2 Irish Munster. You are, you came across with the Normans in 1169. Do you know the Fitzgeralds, the connection with Wicklow? Yeah, so, well, the Fitzgeralds... you're on TikTok, so you can't see this. But the Fitzgeralds came across in 1169, one of the first families to sort of settle in Ireland. And they very quickly branched across right from Kildare, Wicklow, Carlow, Kilkenny, Tipperary, Limerick, Kerry, parts of Cork, Waterford, so basically the whole of the south of Ireland. And they even owned lands all the way up in Leitrim, around Sligo, and had often conflicts with the O'Donnells, in that area. So I do have a map somewhere. I'll have to get it out for another video, but of hotspots of the Fitzgerald surname. They ended up branching into two main lines, but and each main line produced. I'm gonna just pull a number here and actually say hundreds of cadet branches, all owning land at various degrees, all over Ireland, Wicklow included. Often see Wicklow was a hub. It was Wayne, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. You didn't have to give back. I really do appreciate that. So Wicklow was quite a unique, well, not unique. There was quite so it was completely surrounded in a wee rebel area for a while under the O'Byrnes and the O'Tooles. But just because an area was primarily Gaelic and ruled by the Gaels all through the Anglo-Norman and later English sort of invasions of Ireland, doesn't mean that there weren't families from outside those areas settling in those areas. The Gaelic society was very good at welcoming rogue knights, families, people into their fold, because like I said earlier with the adoption and fosterage, they are a tool. They're another person. They're another person who works in the field. They're another person who can be in the shield wall. They're another, they're an asset, and they, if you're a rogue knight, Fitzgerald knight who ends up in O'Byrne territory, and you're given a daughter to marry, you have intel. You have access to resources, you have connections, trading connections. So yeah, there's a lot of Darren, I appreciate the invite. I'm going to wait until I have I'm using my phone, which is why you only have half a screen. Look at the fingers on TikTok. I'm going to wait until I have TikTok Studio once I've unlocked the 25 minutes of live streaming, and then I will look at doing lives in the future together with other people. So I'm not taking lives at the minute, or shared lives. Sorry, my name is Rafferty. UPF. My name is Rafferty. I don't know much about it. All the Raffertys I've met in the USA are from Philadelphia. Well, Philadelphia had a large concentration of Irish settlers. I believe there's quite a lot of things associated with Irish settlers in Philadelphia, and they are primarily, I believe, they're, from what I know, they are from Donegal, but apart from sort of that, I'm not entirely sure. I believe they're from around here, but again, it's a I'm pulling out here. I'll tell you what I could do. Actually, I could see if I have any notes here for you, and we can use my notes as a. Let's get into my folders. No, okay. So I've got, there's Raffertys from Donegal, there's Raffertys from Armagh and Louth, so around the same sort of area my family is originally from. Okay, so I don't have enough information, but what I can say is that these two areas, so you have Donegal, which was Tyrconnell, the O'Donnells were the primary family in this area, so one link could be with them. If they're landowning, they're going to either be related or claim relation. The Irish a lot of families were very good at fabricating links to one another to maintain land whenever a newcomer came in. You would see that with the O'Neills when they came down from Inishowen to sort of Fermanagh in the 8th century. Suddenly you have all these families that claim descent from the Kinlowen, and actually they're from the Fermanagh group who were in that area. But if they're from Armagh, there's this sort of area was Monaghan, Louth. This sort of area was the Archela or Oriel, a confederation of families, and the McMahons were primarily the family in that area. But you would also have the O'Hanlons of Armagh. So I will do some research for you, PF, and I will put your name down to do a short on them, and I will see if you know of if you know of a possible link to a family, if you have family from Armagh, and you're like, oh, I think that's the line I'm from, I can give you the history of that area, not a problem. Which, battles, lords, etc. Who, so even though I might not be able to give you your direct line, I can sort of give you an understanding of what was happening to and around your family. So my surname is, let's have a look at, I'm trying to keep up with chat as well, but I do waffle, and that means that I miss quite a lot of, and I'm on TikTok and YouTube, so I do miss quite a lot of questions, but I will try and get back to them as quick as I can. Council Watchers Liverpool. My surname is McGovern. We hail from Glengavin in County Cavan. I was wondering if this ties in with your knowledge. Yeah, so you just do. Most people ask, where do we come from, and you just do come from that area. Surname sprouted in the 12th century, and you're related to the McKierans, I believe, are a branch of that family. So the Cavan was part of Cavan. Most of Cavan was part of the Kingdom of Breifne, who were the O'Rourke's, and who were the other family who are a branch of the O'Rourke's, rivals of the O'Rourke's for millennia. In fact, right up until recent times, there was a court case between the two families. Let me think. It'll come to me. But yes, so you had Eastern and Western Breifne, who were rivals of each other, but often overlords of each other. So you I believe use around the Cavan Fermanagh border, but I don't know where exactly. But so you're going to be Eastern Breifne, which again I'm trying to remember the two. Anyone know off the top of their heads, if anyone can think of the rivals of the O'Rourke's? Just like, or are you going to make me Google it? Right, hang on. Do you know what? I'll quickly Google Kingdom of Breifne, Eastern Breifne. Why does my screen keep going black? You're just going to have to give me 2 seconds. I think there's like a loose connection or something. That's if I can spell Breifne. Well, yeah, I know, and of course the first thing it comes up with is the O'Rourke's. So Western Breifne, yeah. So O'Reilly's. There we go. Thank you for yes, you were right. Yes, so O'Reilly's. They're right. I don't know. I just name skipped my head. They are related to the O'Rourke's and long-standing rivals. So, yeah. So you would be linked to the O'Reilly's, or I don't know your actual link, but another link you could be related to is the Maguires, who are in that area from the Fermanagh. And with a link like McKieran, McKieran's quite a common surname in Ulster anyway, and there are multiple origins, including the Nail. But I believe the Maguires have a McKieran line as well. So I hope that sort of and also any McCabe's amongst you. So although the kingdom was often split into two between Eastern and Western Breifne, the McCabe's were constable Gallowglass lords for both. So there was they managed to so McCabe's were often fighting McCabe's. So let me get the next question. Anything on TikTok? Bobster, just became one gifter. Thank you very much for all the hearts. I really do appreciate them. Let's see. Are there any other questions? I apologize if I miss your questions on TikTok. I can't only see a part of the screen with my phone holder until I get the studio. So, if you have a burning question, please make your way across to YouTube, or wait until I'm hoping the next live tomorrow, 10 p.m. UK Ireland time till 11:59. I'll have the studio app up and running, and we can hopefully I'll be able to see your questions. But I don't see any. If I've missed them, I do apologise. Bobster293, I appreciate the request to come across to the live. I'm not doing lives at the minute, sharing lives until I have the studio up and running. Please, once that's sort of up and running, we'll see maybe about having TikTok shared lives, but not while I'm also streaming on YouTube as well. They won't be able to hear what you're saying, and they're I don't really want to mix the two together. So if I have a TikTok live night, which I'll try and do maybe, we'll do that then. So I appreciate the offer though. Okay, so Antoinette, have you done anything about the Bog of Allen clans? I don't know the Bog of Allen clans. I know of Allen clans, or the Allen surname, primarily it's from Scotland, Ireland and England, and there are sort of multiple variations of the name, like Aelin, Alan, Alwyn, and each one sort of branched off and then has been anglicised to Alan, even though they may not be related to each other. Halen is another one that was anglicised to Alan. But I don't know the Bog of Allen clans, so that must be a separate another line. The fact that the name is like really common in England just as well would make it very hard to differentiate, I imagine. But I haven't, but I will put them down on my wee list, and we can definitely go through them. Right, so we're here. Rafferty again. What got you into Irish clans and surnames? Actually, Antoinette, you being a Doyle as well, it was my surname, and not in the way that I. So the Doyle surname being quite common in Ireland and having multiple unrelated family groups, I didn't know. Most people, if you're an O'Reilly or an O'Rourke, an O'Shea, you get a general idea of possibly who a Campbell. You get an idea of who your family is. You might not be from that specific main line or whatever, but you have a general idea of the history. But Doyle doesn't really have it. It has this generic, usually descended from Vikings, and it's not really, it didn't feel like it resonated with me in any way. So I dug into my own name, which is what we spoke about earlier, and realised how sort of complicated the whole thing was, and it led me down the McDowells, it led me down Gallaglass, through the McDowells, and then led me on to the McSweeneys, and I really it just sort of opened up from there. I was just sort of that's the part of history that sort of I was always interested in. Egyptian pharaohs, the dynasties. I was also interested in Rome, but not for the Roman army, the legions that most people be, but for who were the gens of Rome, and then later the princes of Rome. And I was always just sort of interested in, who were the individuals that really wrote the stories of our history, but not just the kings of England who, and then you got like Henry II, and you're sort of reading about him, but it felt very generic to when you're talking about England, not realizing that you've got the Montgomerys, you've got the Howards, you've got all these sort of families who are playing really important roles in our histories that are just being skimmed over. So that was basically how it started, and now it's an obsession. I'm sure the wife would say. Your knowledge is amazing. Council watchers, I really do appreciate that. It's from spending far too long with a nose in a book. So I don't know. You could say if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But again, I do try to make sure that before I come onto a live, I do get a bit of remind and refresh on that, because I don't want to obviously come on here and say anything wrong. I always link Irish fans or lovers of Irish history to the same way as Star Trek or Star Wars nerds are portrayed in media. That, you know, if they get something wrong, they're straight on it, and people are who are into history are very similar, and that's not an insult. It comes from you know, their passion for their history and who they are. It means a lot to a lot of people, so it's not a criticism. But what it means is that I have to make sure that I am aware of a lot of stuff at all times. Thoughts on the haplogroup RM222 and its prevalence in Donegal, believed to be 20% of the male population. Woden, genetics is not my area of study. If you'd asked me that, or you did ask me that, but I would sort of say the RM222, as far as I'm aware, isn't that the Beaker genetic marker that's quite prevalent in 80% of the Irish population? Am I mixing that up with another one? Again, see, that's what I mean. But actual genetic markers and haplogroups are not my area of study. I have some understanding from clan families who history pages who would do that sort of research and then sort of put it on their pages or in their papers. But as a whole, I don't actually have a full understanding. I'm guessing, or is that the possible Enil haplogroup, the Nile of 9 hostages haplogroup? If that's the case, it would make a lot of sense for him to have 20% of the population being a descendant. You know, if you are a warlord in the 5th century in Donegal, you get you know, multiple marriages for alliances for you know, you get all access to all the best, and that's you know, unfortunately women were a commodity, especially in early medieval Ireland, so you know, he gets all the best of them too. And then, you know, his family, his descendants are landholding, more like wealthier, better access to diet, better access to some sort of medication. There's an invested interest to keep their order alive, so clans will pull together to make sure that they get access to the best, inadvertently or advertently. So they're more likely to produce descendants that survive to the modern day. I have McCabe and O'Toole's who married from Lurgan, I think in the 1800s. Little outside my study. I am primarily from the 6th century to the 17th century Ireland, or 16th century / a little bit of 17th century. But the O'Toole's are a Wicklow family, and the McCabe's are a Cavan family. McCabe's are a Gallowglass family who came from Scotland, and the O'Toole's are related to the O'Byrnes, who I have a video on, and there's some overlap in there, a lot of overlap in their history. I've subscribed, wonderful, and I will look for a link. Thank you very much, PF. Thank you so much, friend. This screen, I'm gonna have to do something about this. Thank you. So I found you easy to understand and a wealth of knowledge. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate that. Oh, I live right on the Bog of Allen, Antoinette. Okay, that would explain. Where's the Bog of Allen? Really appreciate your time. Find it fascinating. Appreciate anyone who studied this. No, thank you very much. I really appreciate you being here, Council Watchers. I really do. Well, here's your twin on the same on what you're saying. That so I love history and I've book wrong. We'll keep it up, Antoinette. It's it's I can't. But I'm biased. I can't say anything wrong about Irish history. So, no, it's the so-called Nile haplogroup. Yeah. Just know my dad's haplogroup is RTC 446, which is pretty much all males in the south of Ireland. That's your dad's. Your dad is the main progenitor of that, is it, Wayne? Your dad got around. Well, a lot of them anyway. Again, haplogroups. There's only going to be so many primary ones. I know they branch off, but I know that when the migrations into Ireland, the early Neolithic and Mesolithic and when they came into Ireland, there was quite a lot of genetic displacement in the early ones. So you're only going to have. I know that primarily the Bell Beaker, or what we think is the Bell Beaker sort of branches coming into Ireland, replaced sort of 80-90% of the population. So you're going to have that RM25, maybe it's not RM222 as I thought Woden, maybe it's RM256, which is like 80% of the male population. So, right, I'm just going to, if you just give me 2 seconds to move this, I'm going to just be quiet for literally a couple of seconds while I try and fix the screen. But any questions, please ask away. Right, apologies for that wee break there. I'm trying to fix that screen. Right, so let's see TikTok. Anything with Fitz comes from the Norman French fist, son of. Excuse me. That's true in a linguistic term, but not true in a genetic or sort of. There are 2 Irish families with the surname Fitz at the front of them, the Fitzpatricks, who are from the Dalburn down here in Kilkenny, who were an ancient tribe in the area, and the other one escapes me because it's either not common anymore or it doesn't exist anymore. It died out. So yeah, anyone with Fitz, there are a lot of families adopted anglicised versions of their name, so it's even possible to have Fitz in front of your name and be from an Irish sort of line, and that can go both ways. You have Butler family, in fact I believe Fitzgerald and Butler lines with Mac in front of their name as they became Gaelicised, taking more Gaelicised versions of their name, and hang on, tries to puzzle into place. I don't know what TikTok's sort of saying. Let me TikTok's just having a moment. So just because your name is spelt a certain way, it's a bit like the whole argument of Mac and Muck, and if it's Mac it's Irish, and if it's Muck it's Scottish, but both are, can be Scottish and both can be Irish. It's not so much about what your actual name is, probably more about what your name is and where you are stationed with that name, or where you are from with that name. A good example is, like I said earlier, would be Campbell's, and if you're Campbell's from Armagh, you could possibly be from the later migrations, the more recent migrations of the plantations of Ulster, or you could be part of the older McCowells who translated their name to Campbell for various reasons. So I'm just trying to read any idea about the strange lines on some of the coat of arms. Interested to know about if anyone has any idea about the strange lines on some of the coat of arms armour. I do have a video about coat of arms, but not so much about the visual sort of sides of it. It's more about has Ireland got the ability to, or anyone of Gaelic origin, is it justified to have coat of arms for Gaelic families? With it being sort of coming across from mainland Europe and to Ireland via England, and it sort of explores that. But most coat of arms that you see online are fabricated. They are modern iterations from the 19th century onwards. In fact, 20th century onwards. There are some, like the Kavanaghs, that exist from earlier, sort of, we have seals for them, as they were gifted charters and stuff. I believe the Kavanaghs maybe 15th century, 14th century. So there are some families that have them that are older, but 99% of them are fabrications, or take inspiration from a family who's known to have one, like the Kavanaghs. Families nearby who are related maybe will adopt a very similar coat of arms, and that's actually, although that is actually how coat of arms sort of materialized in a lot of areas. You would get a newly person from England who would recently become noble, for whatever reason. They would adopt a coat of arms very similar to their lord who had knighted them, whose family their daughter had married into, etc. I appreciate the offer to go live, but unfortunately I'm not sharing lives today, but maybe in the future. So do you know about the Macaroni Can surname? I'm from Scotland and my grandparents came from Donegal in Tyrone. Do you know how to pronounce the Irish way of spelling Kenny? Kenny? That's how I would pronounce it. Gaelic is not my primary language. It's not one that I studied apart from at secondary school. More's the pity. I will say that it is I would class it as a flaw of mine for not knowing enough Irish, and I feel that my ability to grasp the Gaelic language is not that great. I read it better than I speak it, and that's purely because of the manuscripts I'm often reading. But do I know anything about the McElhinney surname of Scotland? My grand says hang on. Is that similar to the McElhinney? Are they similar to the McInerney's? Which I can't see because my screen is still doing its thing. Give me 2 seconds. Oh, Canis, not Kenny. Canis. St. Kenny, I was right. Oh, so Kilkenny. Oh, okay. I'll take that one as a wee bit of a win. Because I wasn't sure if I was pronouncing that correctly. And I mean, I probably still any of you purists out there would probably still butcher me for my pronunciation, but I'll take it. I'll take the win. I'll take a small win from it. You got to give me it every now and again. We're at the end of the day, we're all learning all the time. So, and you should never criticize someone who's trying to learn. So yeah, you were asking. They were from Tyrone. Where are they from? Donegal and Tyrone. Yeah. So as far as I know, I only know about that from the location of the family. I don't know an awful lot about what they're up to. Now, if they're from Donegal, I think it's very similar to they're going to be related to the Kinloan or the Kinlochon, the two main branches who are obviously related to each other, arguably as well. Magilla is sort of like servant of, so Magilla Kenny would be like servant of the Saint of Kenny, so they could have links to church in that area. I am doing actually I can't look it up because I don't have my main notes here because of TikTok. I will know better on the next live tomorrow, hopefully, because I will have access to. I have at the minute probably the largest collection of surnames from the Urner or religious families in Ireland. It's bigger than anything you'll find online in one location, and I would be able to check if the McGillicannys were in that list and probably what church they were associated with if I had access to that. So if you will allow me, Celtic, to put a pin in that till tomorrow, I can give you more information hopefully, but I can't check because TikTok is unfortunately having to be on my phone tonight because it's my first live stream on there before you get access to their studio. So I do apologise. But yes, Donegal and Tyrone, a lot of interconnection between there. In fact, owned at the same time by the Heenies were kings of both areas first, and then the O'Cannons. But that's when the kingdom, what was part of Donegal and Tyrone, started to fragment, and you had the rise of the Kinlochon, who would be the O'Donnells. Let's have a look. Conversation here. McElhenney was Argyll, Kinloan, MacNeil, Isle 900s, Northern Eniel. There you go. Peters sort of said they a branch of them went to Argyll, and they were part of that. It's confirmed what I suspected of being Kinloan, therefore claiming descent from Niall of 9 hostages. But hopefully I can give you a little bit more information tomorrow if you're on. If not, the live will be up. Alright. Okay, so another question here. What do you know? I've done that. Wayne, do you know if McCaig is Scottish or Irish? Again, you will probably find Scottish and Irish variations or translations of that name. There is an Irish branch of that name, and they are from Galway. I don't know where, but they are a Galway family. With your links to sort of Tipperary, I don't think it's a big push, where the relation came from. But yeah, they. I know there is a branch, for the McCaig's here, and I know off the top of my head that there's some of the translation come from like Tig, or O-Tig. So if that's the case, there's McTigs up in the north. Which could have been translated to McCaig later on, and vice versa. Again, check out the Is Your Irish Surname, or Is Your English Surname Irish on the channel. That will really breaks down how we ended up with so many variations of the same name, and how we ended up with so many unrelated surnames. It's not all of the reasons, but it gives you a good idea. My brother, rest in peace, had an original very old map of Kildare and one of Ireland. I'm sorry to hear the passing of your brother. There's some really great maps online, but there's also some very terrible ones. I tend to, on my videos, draw my own, which is again something that slows the process down. But I can't even remember where it is, but there's parts of the lines can be very straight. We've all seen what happens when you draw straight lines on a map. Just look at the Middle East and the problems that causes. I tend to use Dr. Paul McCotter's work to do my maps, it's a long, arduous process, but I like to stick in the old maps in there sometimes as well in the videos, just to give you a sense of A, what's out there, and that they exist, and B, I think they add a bit more to the video just when you see sort of more than my terrible artwork. Are you from the north? Trying to guess from your accent. Yes, I'm from the north. From County Down, which would be right here. So my family is originally from the Armagh and Down, and I live in North Down now these days. So yes, I'm from the north. I don't let it. Politics, if anyone's worried about political bias or anything like that, I don't have any of that for a multitude of reasons. Intermarried family, previous work as a British soldier. So that is my counter argument to anyone who may feel that I may have any bias. But we all have internal biases. I don't. No, I'm joking. I just try and make sure mine are... I have a lot of influences, and I try to be as fair as I can with all history. Don't discriminate if you are from an Anglo-Norman family or a planter family or anything like that. It's all part of our history. And we don't have to like. Some people don't like it, but it is. It already exists. So no point crying about it. Thank you for the McCaig. No, Wayne, no, thank you. Any questions? But thank you for supporting the channel. You've been a long time supporter, so I'm glad I can answer some of your questions. No, this was an old original map. It wasn't brought online. He was given it by an old man who had handed it down by his ancestors. Well, that is fantastic. There's very little of that sort of stuff access to the general public. A lot of that stuff would be in libraries, personal libraries of some of our landed gentry and museums, and so to actually have some history in the family, physical history is amazing. I know a lot of Americans are blessed with family Bibles that have passed down through the generations. I'm not particularly religious, but it would still be lovely to have something that that has made its way through my family. Can I go back to that? I can. Hang on. They moved over from Scotland. The McGovern moved over to Scotland with the Kingdom of Dalriada. Yeah. So depending on what sort of source you want to use for that, and the migrations into Scotland from Ireland. Yeah, I know the Kingdom of Dalriada. Whether again, a lot of families had a lot of ways of fabricating, so you've got to be really careful about take everything, all the history, personal histories, with a pinch of salt. I want to use the MacNeils of Scotland, of Barra, as an example, who claim to be O'Neills, but actually modern DNA has proven that they are of Norse origin. But then on the counter side of that, you've got the McSweeneys, who came from Donegal, who sided with the English during the Scottish Wars of Independence. They lost, and they fled to Donegal, but they claimed descent from Amrahan, who was part of the Kinlowen, and who'd gone across to Scotland because he refused the kingship of Tyrconnell. But anyway, they claimed descent from the Kinlowen, the Kinlochon, sorry, who were the O'Donnell Lords, and the O'Donnell Lords seemed to accept their genealogies, accept them as their own, as kin. Again, I mean, if they're accepting it, then we got to kind of take that with a bit of, maybe there's a bit of truth to that. But it just shows both sides of the argument about, claimed ancestry. What you said, one day I hope, did a movie about a town, but yeah, the battle, the cavalry of Cooley, yeah. All the king lists are very mythical and made up. Is that all the king lists of Dalriada? If it is, the Dalriada are a very interesting one, because the Dalriada are really are a Gaelic speaking, Gaelic clothes wearing, Gaelic everything, apart from their ancestry, which is more than likely a Brythonic migration from Scotland to Antrim, and they pushed out the Fiacra, no, not the Fiacra, what you call them, the McDonleavys anyway, of Down, modern day County Down, who were a king group who sort of ruled this area, and they called the McDonleavys called themselves the True Ullids, because they believed themselves the true Ulstermen, and the Dalriada were in Antrim, and they had muscled their way in, and after a couple of centuries kind of got fed up with the McDonleavys calling themselves the True Ullids, and to justify their overlordship now of Antrim and to curb Kinlowen aggression into the area, they claimed descent and from the Ullid, and started calling themselves the True Ullid. And like, hey O'Neill, stop encroaching on our territory, we're kin and friends. So, and then obviously Dalriada are the same group that went back to Scotland. So depending on how picky you want to be, were they a family from Scotland who came to Northern Ireland and went back to Scotland? That's a very brief and of a very complex sort of discussion, but it is something I look to cover very soon. I live in Ayr. I was born, I still live in Ayr. I've been in Liverpool a few times. I love the accent. The Scouse accent is, my wife's family are from that part of the world, so I'm not going to say anything bad about any Scousers. They're a tough bunch. Have you seen the ancient map of Ireland done by Ptolemy? Yes, I've seen that map, Ptolemy's map, and many sort of papers released after it where people have tried to interpret it better and put it to scale, and sort of associate tribal groups with each other. I know we've got groups that share similar names on the continent, modern day France, and in England, and people have tried to conflate those as maybe are they the same. There's counter arguments that they maybe share the same divinity, same goddess. So they are only the same in name and not actually related to each other. But that doesn't mean that there's not a lot of interconnection between Ireland, England, and mainland Europe. We have built this myth about this island of Ireland being on the periphery of civilization. Or we didn't build it. I would argue that it was forced upon us, and then we sort of twisted it to our own narrative. But we were on the periphery of civilization. I just want floating in the Atlantic, but we weren't. We were just as connected to the Roman world as most other countries, even if we were never conquered by them. And not to say that they hadn't eyed it up a few times. And there's Roman finds in Antrim, and there's links with, I can't remember, the Roman general in Scotland, who had 2 Ulster princes basically under his pay, with dreams and ambitions of attacking Ireland, but personal conflicts in Rome diverted his resources and attention. So there's been connectivity, marriage between all of us for centuries. I haven't seen that much, but I'd be interested in seeing it. I don't know if I have it here. I'll tell you what, I'll just give you. I can't move that across. Just Google Ptolemy's map of Ireland, and you'll get a multitude of variations of it, some better than others, but you'll get an idea anyway. I would like to do my interpretation of the map and some of the histories of those king groups of Ireland, because obviously they are the primary progenitors of all clans of Ireland, whether we know the links or not. So sorry, I'm just got to get through all the chat here and find out. So the 3 colours, centuries before the Daliada. So that's another. So the 3 colours as well is another. Some academics support theory. The 3 colours were the original Daliada. And that was incorporated in early histories of some of the families related. To the 3 colours. They tried to become sort of justified that they were, the main family. So, but what is the, how accurate is the, even the existence of the 3 colours? Again, is hotly debated. It's so I know again there's like some genetic evidence to support it at the minute, coming out, but it's again it's sketchy when you sort of come into genetic lines, especially when you're not actually testing the 3 colours themselves. So the Dalriada sort of debate has there's quite a few. There's Ewan Campbell who argues that it never actually happened, or especially not as we know it, and it was more of a natural sort of make-up between Antrim and Scotland. It just sort of happened through just microtransactions of culture, and there was no invasion. And then there is McSporran, Dr. McSporran, archaeologist who argues about the fact that it did exist because the way that the whole political system shifted, and there's a few other arguments about the way that life changed in Northern Ulster as things like cutlery were brought back from Scotland, and it changed sort of certain dynamics within the kingdom. That is a known marker of in all history of invasions, into the country or into another country, is all the loot being brought back, and it's sort of changing the way things are run, because you sort of take the best ideas from the new country you've sort of invaded and you bring it home with you, and it's this new, it's all fancy, it's we've all seen it, the way that fashions change and stuff like that. The English fashions were being worn by the Gaels in the 16th century. Women were dressing up in English dresses and styles of that, but that was heavily influenced by Italy and France and mainland Europe. So there is that link there. Okay. Yeah, let me see what anyone in YouTube chat. We can get my YouTube chat back up again. It's closed again. Anglesey is another place that makes you feel you've been accepted. That's Wales, isn't it? The big island in Wales. Council Liverpool. Robbie Carroll. Any information about the Carrolls or O'Carrolls would be appreciated. Where did the crest originate from, and what battles did they take it? Well, that's a lot of information. But the Carrolls are from the Kingdom of Ely. So it's like a Tipperary region, but it's sort of like Tipperary and Kilkenny, I believe. So it's like upper Oshery. Is it no? I think it's just Kilkenny. Sorry, I apologise. So they're from upper Oshery, and they were rivals to sort of the rise of the Dalburns in the area. There are other O'Carrolls. Again, there's another branch from Ayrshella, Oriel, in the Monaghan, South Armagh, Louth, bit of Fermanagh. They're totally unrelated to one another. As for sort of battles, I'm trying to think of anything that would sort of stick out for any battles, because Kilkenny was a hot spot. See, the Kilkenny was owned by it became Fitzpatrick territory, and the Fitzpatricks were known for being quite politically astute in the way that they operated. So whenever Brian Boru in the 11th century is rampaging around Ireland, this upstart warlord is raging round and taking the island of Ireland in its entirety under his supremacy, his overlordship. He would then obviously annoy quite a lot of people, and there would be a rebellion in northern Leinster and Dublin, the kingdom of Dublin, and he would troop across there, and Kilkenny under the Fitzpatricks would stay neutral. They wouldn't take part in the battle. There is a myth that on the way back, Brian's forces under his son, because Brian obviously died at the Battle of Clontarf in 1014, ambushed the O'Brien army, as they're retreating away. Not retreating because they won the battle, but they're licking their wounds because it was a very, very hard fought battle. But I think that's more myth myth rather than actual legend, myth and legend rather than actual historical fact. As for the crest, I kind of went over this earlier, that most crests are 20th century fabrications. Some of them claim to be descended from or linked to ancient Gaelic battle flags and stuff like that. From my own research, I've never seen anything older than the Kavanaghs, who are sort of the 15th century, 14th, 15th century. So any claim that the coat of arms is ancient is gonna be not spurious, but it's tenuous link. So I would say, like, they're great. Don't, if any of you have these coat of arms and pictures, and they're really good markers for, like a surname, markers for identity. And even if they're from the 19th, 20th century, they're still coming 200 years old. That's I think enough justification to wear them with pride. But at the same time, they're not all of them have got these ancient links. But so they're like I said, they're from Northern Kilkenny. I believe the Leap Castle, I believe, is the castle that they have. Around the 16th century. I can't remember if there's any sieges during. Any sort of in there, Forza Fierce. By the way, Forest Visa, Exploring Irish History. If any of you are really into Irish medieval history, right up to the 17th century, 9 Years' War, dolmens, stone circles, all our ancient sites, get across and check his channel out. And I'm pretty sure you can just click it in the chat there. And Owen has a great channel, and he's answering some of the questions there about the O'Carrolls, Robbie, and they're linked to the Earl of Ormonds. So I would definitely recommend checking him out. It's a great channel. So you're saying they had a complicated link with the Earl of Ormond in the 15th century, as did everyone in Kilkenny. I just want to say that. That was a very complicated time. We had their continuous Earl of Ormonds fighting and feuding with the Fitzgeralds, and you had the Butlers wanting there to maintain their link to the English Parliament, and you had the Fitzgeralds wanting to maintain their link to Ireland, and their dislike of the Tudors. And the Butlers had had quite a close connection with the Tudors, and Kilkenny is sort of the area between Tipperary and Kildare, and it's kind of like a central zone, and it's all the while being run by the Fitzpatricks and the O'Brennans, and many others. But you also have the Shortholds, who are like an Anglo-Norman family in the area. It's on the periphery of the Pale, which is the Dublin administrated by London, land. So it's kind of like a hotspot for all these sort of problems. Owen, no, honestly, you're very welcome. I don't know. Hang on. I'm just reading all these. The O'Carrolls got kicked in the teeth by the O'Nocta, the O'Sullivans prior to the 12th century. Did they? I don't remember. I mean, so the O'Sullivans by the 12th century are now in southern Cork. So for them to be in Kilkenny, like I say, I can't know everything. I'd love to. I mean, or are you just saying the O'Nocta as in like the O'Sullivans is like a general, like that's one of the branches of them, which would, yeah, I suppose that makes sense. Yeah, so the O'Nocta, yeah, the O'Nocta owned quite a lot of Ireland. And then with that, so you had the O'Nocta Cashel, you have the O'Nocta Rathlin, you have the O'Nocta, of Kerry, or O'Nocta Mumu, Anyway, so what happened was the Corker Lugda were the primary strong, so the O'Driscolls, who would become the O'Driscolls, were the primary force in Southern Ireland in early medieval history. And then the O'Nocta rose up and they confederated. They even took in once they conquered part of the Corker Lugda, they even took in some of these Corker Lugda families, who then rewrote their genealogies to be part of the O'Nocta. So the O'Nocta are very good at sort of taking in these families. So something to always remember is that, and it's something that you can put through the O'Nocta sound great. They were very good at what they did anyway. So I noticed that if you are interested in the Isles, the Scottish Isles, and the history of the Scottish Isles, there's often a big argument that there's no Gaelic families or from the Dalriada in that area. Yeah, they're all Norse families. Because they came in and they killed all the men and just took all the women and they took all the land. From an economic standpoint, that does not make sense. Especially if you're a warband and a lord and you want to come into the area, you're going to kill all the men. So you kill all the farmers, you kill all the tanners, you kill all the tailors, you kill your fighting force, your new servants. So that didn't happen. There's actually normally what would happen is families would prefer, new noble lords would prefer to keep some sort of continuity between, so they would try and keep on as much of the local nobility after distributing the best stuff to their own allies. They would try and keep that sort of continuity in the area it actually creates political stability, especially if you're a brother of the previous lord and I'm the new lord and I come in and I say, look, I fought your brother, but if I give you the western half of his lands, will you support me? Well, considering you probably weren't going to inherit anything in the first place, well, it sounds like a good deal to me. And it's the same with it goes right the way up to even the 14th century in Scotland. Bruce allowed the Marshalls family back into Scotland, even after they sided against him. As I says, the O'Nocta rose up and they owned most of Munster, and they would continue to do so through their various branches right up until the 17th century. The McCarthys, the O'Sullivans, the O'Callahans, the McAuliffes. Got to give them another shout out. Let's get back to the questions here. Let's have a look at anyone on TikTok. Any sort of back to but thanks for the lives on TikTok. I really appreciate that. Peter, really do appreciate that. Okay, so TikTok is trainer an Irish name? Is trainer an Irish name or an English name? Again, I've sort of covered to call something an Irish name or an English name is kind of a misnomer. Many Irish people adopted anglicised versions of their name or were given them, and some English adopted sort of Irish variations, or Anglo-Normans adopted Irish variations of their name. But I know that there is an Irish branch of trainers, and they're primarily found around County Clare, down here in the blue. If you're on YouTube, you can't see that on TikTok, I'm afraid. And I know there is a trainer in Northern England that are linked to the Armstrongs. So you will find trainer in Ulster coming in, and they will primarily have been coming along with the plantations of Ulster, the more recent sort of immigration into Ireland through those plantations. So so there's two. I know two branches. Those would be it. Lachlan. No, not Lachlan. Revo. Lachlan, I bet O'Connor has already been covered. No, it hasn't. O'Connor has many branches. Do you have a specific branch for let me just see here. Say thank you again, mate. Yeah, I'm from Northern England. Yeah, so you probably have links to trainers. Would probably be more likely linked to the Armstrong Reaver family. Bobby, you're very welcome. Right, so I suppose we've only got a couple of minutes left, so we can end on the O'Connors. Do you have, Lachlan, a specific branch of O'Connors? Because we have the three main branches in Connacht, O'Connor Row, O'Connor Dawn, and the now sort of more rare O'Connor Sligo. We also have the O'Connors in Kerry. We have O'Connors in Ulster. We have O'Connors in Kildare. It's there's eight known branches who are not all unrelated. The Connacht lines are all related to each other, but all the there's O'Connors and Clare as well who are not related, even though they're right very close to each other. They're it would depend on which O'Connor. Limerick is Limerick in the Great Fire. So again, that's kind of a hard one because quite a modern link. So the problem is, I know it's a problem with all the diaspora, is that a lot of yous will have links to. It's alright, Lachlan. We'll have links to, so you'll say like, oh, my family came from Dublin, my family came from Newry, my family came from Limerick in the 18 etc. But these are hubs that are drawing in families from all over the place, especially after the Industrial Revolution, where families are sort of migrating into these areas for new work. And then you have the famine, which is causing families to come into these areas for food, for work, etc. So you have this sort of hybridization where you have these 8 branches of O'Connors end up on top of each other, and you don't know who's who. Now, one of the things I often say is that it's not a clear-cut way, and it's definitely not 100%, and it has its own pitfalls, but it's a good place to start, is that if you have an O'Connor from Newry, likelihood is this O'Connor is going to be from the Ulster line, who left and moved to Newry. It's not impossible, but it's less likely that your O'Connor from Newry is going to go down to Limerick, unless it was like the last boat out. Okay, so I would say with your O'Connor Limerick Lachlan link that it's a fair assessment that you're on YouTube, so you can see the map. You're going to be either the O'Connors here or the O'Connor Kerrys. You've got the O'Connors up here. I can't remember the second part of the name is attributed to them, but the O'Connors up here, and then you could probably be the O'Connor Row and O'Connor Dawn, but I would say that your fairest assessments are going to be are these two, or again, I have to just stress it. It's not a perfect way to do it, but it's probably the best way we've got at the moment beyond genetics. Owen is sort of covered there that you have these are the O'Connor carries. I will read yours in a second, Antoinette. You've got these two lines here are probably going to be your most likely. I do have a short video, Lachlan, on the O'Connor carries, and I know Forrest Facer has a video on Carrickfoyle. I'm pretty sure he's done a video on that, on their famous castle, Great Castle. So I would check those out. Do you have a notification on your page to let us know when you are online and the date and time? I pop posts out the end of every week, which will say the timings. If you go into my posts, you can sort of see what I'm starting to do now. Revo, are you going to start doing this regularly? Yes, 3 times a week during the weekday. And if there's any reason I can't attend one, I will let you know. But click the bell notification on the YouTube page, and that should give you an idea of when I will be coming live. But yes, what I tried to do is put the Irish British time on there, and I tried to translate as best I can to some of the Sydney, New York and California, LA, the closest time it will be to them, so you sort of get an idea. But the best way is the bell notification, and keep an eye on the posts. There is a poll on the posts. If this is the kind of discussion you want to see, the way you want to see these going forward to continue like this. But I have a couple of other suggestions. Maybe you want to see historical gaming. Maybe you want to see in the background, just to keep, any of you with the ADHD like myself who just need that distraction, or maybe you want to see me edit my videos terribly. So if you're going to the posts to check out the timings, tomorrow's one is 10 p.m. Please have a little click of that as well, or maybe have a suggestion in the comment sections. Antoinette, I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. This is the first night where it's gone a lot more smoothly, so I really appreciate it. So I'm going to end it there. What gameplay? Crusader Kings, Total War, historical games that you can sort of get visual aids of what I'm talking about. But again, if that's something you want to see, I'm going to try and make sure I appeal to as many as I can. So I'm not going to, I want to make this as fun for everyone. So, but thanks again for tonight, guys. I really did have a blast, and it's lovely to see the comments that some of you did too. So, I will end the stream there, and I hope to see you all, soon.